Hey everyone, Jason Sherman here. In today's episode of Strap On Your Boots, I have with me James Hepner. He is living fully alive. So I'm excited to talk about how pressure creates passionate purpose with you, my friend. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Jason. I appreciate it. And you put on those bootstraps, my friend. I didn't think you were going to say I'm living a fully. I'm doing the best that I can to live fully alive. But please, listeners, hear me out. We're all wanting to live fully alive, and I'm doing my best rendition of it. So please don't hear me or at all on this talk. At not at all hear me say that I got to figure it out, because honestly,
None
we
of us
want
do.
something and we're living there. So we want to live fully alive. I get it.
Yeah, and a lot of what you talk about is wins and losses. So we're going to talk about mastering the art of being prepared for anything, win, lose, or draw, which was one of my favorite games back in the. It was like a game show called Win, Lose, or Draw. So
Nice.
I used to like that game. So tell me a little bit about how pain creates pressure and pressure creates presence, presence creates purpose, purpose creates passion. I want to hear about this philosophy and how
Mm.
it can equate to entrepreneurship as well.
Hmm. And thanks for asking. To be honest, I just stumbled into this philosophy, and it's through my life experience. I don't go out and claim to teach anything. I only go out and be about the thing that I've learned from my life experience. And so there's a season of my life, and the audience can tap into and pull from their life experience moments in life when there's an invitation for something. And the invitation is for some discomfort. And for me, more than a decade ago, it came. And the invitation was to embrace, and of course, 2008, the housing real estate crisis. I was part of that whole market. We owned a few businesses in that space, and it brought about a lot of pain, and it put me into a suffering state. And when I exited the suffering state, let's just say it like this: when I was in my pain state and I refused to take the nudging of pain, I literally, as an entrepreneur, and I'll be honest, I think I was quite successful. I found a way to sleep successfully for 18 and a half hours a day, and that's for 2.5 years.
That's
And
tough.
so that's tough. It's a super rough ride. And so when I exited that story and I unfolded on the other side, I have an insatiable love with life at the moment. I just love that I get to participate with what's directly in front of me. And so that means the joys, the pains, the pleasures, all of these things. And so what happened for me, I never forget, my wife and I, we came from a luncheon, and she was riding her car, I was riding in mine. And I was riding towards my home office at the time, and I just started crying, and the tears just started flowing because I was so grateful that I was in such a better place. And I thought, listen, James, how do you trust that this massive difference that you're living today? You went from deep suffering to like being so lit up, and not like hyperbole, but just really engage in life. How do you trust that you're not going to somehow try to recreate that? Because when we experience such a growth curve, we tend to associate that with something we want to do again. And so I was riding my car. I realized there's a little blinking light on my dashboard. You know what that is? Check engine
Check
light.
engine,
And I
man. You
thought,
got to get your oil changed.
right? And so I had been denying it and just kind of, yeah, I'll do it later. You know how we do these things in life. And so then it hit me, and it dawned on me, listen, we don't have to do suffering. We don't have to do learn helplessness. Why not just turn our eyes towards the discomfort, meaning the pains of our life, pop the hood and see what's underneath, be an adventurer, explore. And when you do that properly, and so I came up with the acronym, pain is simply please accept inner nudgings. And when you accept inner nudgings, which by the way, if you don't accept inner nudgings, then pain is going to serve you a lesson. It's going to move from pain to suffering.
Well, yeah,
But if you
you need to shed the cocoon that is the pain and become the butterfly. You have to morph into something else, and you can't just dwell on the mistakes and the pain and the problems of the daily grind or the world around you, because if you do that, then what you're not really living at all, right? You're just
right,
basically tolerating your existence. And
right.
that's not only not good for personal, but it's not good for relationships. It's not
Hmm.
good for business. It's not good for anything, because at that point you're just kind of, like I said, tolerating your existence, and you're not really thriving. And it sounds like what you're trying to do is look at the emotions you have, look at the things that are inside of you, and figure out a way to not only accept them, but then learn from them so that you can move forward a different person. Is that kind of what
Precisely. So it's taking emotions and making what was once unsafe, make it safe. And when you make it safe, you get to experience that it's just nudging you to explore and to dive instead of tolerating your existence. Like you said it so eloquently, Jason. I think another way of putting that is like behaving or, we're behaving life. We're not living life. We're
Right.
performing life. Right. And so here's the deal. If we are willing to just onboard what we observe, so the pains of our life, please accept inner nudging. Pains end up then churning into pressure. And oftentimes that's the next level. People go, oh, I feel pressure from both sides. I got to get out of here. Think of a piece of coal, though. A piece of coal, when pressed from both sides, becomes a diamond. So pains turn to pressure, and pressure churns to presence. We get even more present with it. And when we're more present with it, then it churns into purpose because we get really deep into who we are. And when we're really deep in who we are, then comes finally to the surface that thing that's been calling us forever. We just go, hey, listen, I got to do this. I got to do something about this. And though the universe doesn't understand, and why would they? Because honestly speaking, your purpose will likely be a little different than mine, and it's going to look a little different. So of course, the world may look at you and go, really? You're doing that? They don't get it because you do. That's the point.
Right. Everybody's got a different idea of, what I've noticed too is, again, we've talked about this before, is not everybody has creativity, right? And creativity is part of what purpose is. It's your creative ideas that are giving you purpose. And if your idea of purpose is painting something, well, that's your idea of purpose. Whereas mine might be opening an animal sanctuary, which is a much bigger idea, but my creativity is going to give me different ideas. So I think what you just said about the purpose and the passion being different for everyone is spot on, because it could be the most teeny little thing, maybe painting miniatures or cooking new recipes. So what is the purpose really? And what is the passion? And that really is up to you, ultimately, listeners, to figure that out.
Well, I love that. So if you don't mind, Jason, I'll just share with the audience here. Last time you and I talked, you were on my show. You had little pups in the background. It's a beautiful little pups. That little pups passed away, and I feel bad for you, and I feel sad. But I mean, things like you say, he's in a better place. It's cliche, like you say, but it's true. So if I observe you based on this formula, I'm not a 5-step formula person, but I did discover through my journey that if we please accept our inner nudgings, we don't have to suffer. And so if I observed you, it's like you took your pain, you allowed it to bring you pressure. And when we're pressed on both sides, instead of it being the bad news, why are we so proficient at turning what news is into bad news? No, you're feeling the pressure, and that pressure is making you more present. So I'm listening to what you're unfolding in business and what you're bringing, and that's deepening your presence, and your presence is deepening your purpose. And honestly speaking, no, you're not sitting there laughing and laughing, but passion isn't about that. Passion is about going deep from within, the heart, the soul. It ignites. And so I think living fully alive is to strap on your boots when it's tough, strap on your boots when it's easy. Doesn't matter. You got to strap those suckers on. You got to be in them. You got to participate with what's directly in front of you. Because if you don't, and if you just hope and pray it's going to go away, you might be waiting forever. You got to do something about it. So I just want to acknowledge you. Thank you.
I appreciate that. And I know towards the end of the Purpose Creates Passion, you have passion gives birth to new life. And it's funny because I was lost last week after Wolfie passed. I mean, when you have a son, in my case, he was my son, my dog, but my son for 16 and a half years, all of a sudden he wasn't there next to me. He wasn't there waiting for me. He wasn't there walking with me or sleeping with me or waiting for me to feed him or pet him or something that my routine revolves around. Giving birth to new life, I was lost, and someone recommended writing a journal, starting a journal. And all these passions and pressures and pain and purpose and thoughts in my mind that were just bouncing around like crazy neurons going back and forth, I started a journal. And it was like the day after, or a couple days after I started writing this journal, and man, I feel like I have a purpose now. I'm getting all my thoughts out into this journal. Those inner nudgings, they're getting jotted down. Those emotions jotted down. And you know what it does? And I can't believe I'm 45 years old and I never used a journal in all these years. How powerful it is to just get it all out there, and to move forward and to kind of not leave it behind, but acknowledge it. Like you said, you have to acknowledge it. And writing it down in a journal, it's acknowledging it, and it's allowing me to move forward.
Mhm. And speaking of moving forward, and just tapping into that Wolfie thing, good job, my friend. Like, audience, you can pick it up from him. You guys know him better than you know me, but we can see in there. It's like, why do the Mona Lisa, the reason that Mona Lisa is so popular isn't just because it got stolen, because it's a gentle smile. And you know what? You can cry and you have a gentle smile. And it's like the beauty, the essence of the soul that's so deeply connected. Listen, if you're not going to connect with all layers of life, and so this is to your point earlier, entrepreneurship. Why do I bring weekly wins and losses? Now, I don't think that necessarily we win or lose in life. I think all of life is gain. However, the human consciousness often, and I chose the title, I chose words that I think we as humans, the primitive self, the survival being, is often looking at it. Am I winning or losing? Am I threatened or am I okay? Am I safe or not? And we as humans, we are more than animal. We can just observe. When we look outside, we can observe, not looking for danger or safety. The dog will look for example, like I have a little pup, Charlie, Wolfie, sorry to hear, but the animal is looking for danger or safety. And gracious on you. You provided a really beautiful space for him. He was sick for so many years. In your backpack, you're walking with him. Don't need to bring this back up. But listen, it's a loss in life. And so why do we need to churn something that's a loss into a positive? There's no benefit to convert it, because you're not developing any emotional mastery. Why do we need to convert something that isn't bad to something good? It was never bad to begin with. It was never negative to begin with. It was a situation that was calling into your life something that was, and maybe it's the things that we don't have preference for. But if we're going to be selective gratitude people, we're in trouble. If we're going to be selective preference people, we're in trouble. We have to run not just towards the easy stuff. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say that everything you're saying right there correlates with a startup or a business, because
right? Yeah.
Because as soon as you're facing the difficult parts that are seemingly impossible to break through, and or you're finding out that your target audience is not validated, or your idea is not working, or nobody's buying your product, and I can go on and on and on. What do? You pivot. You don't take it as a negative. You change your trajectory and your path into more positive direction. So like everything you literally just said is the exact same thing as working in a startup, is pivoting, turning that purpose into a different direction, bringing your passions through, and living the right path, the true path of what your idea is supposed to be. And I think that's the problem a lot of people have, entrepreneurs. They're set on their idea. They refuse to change it. As soon as they find an issue, they just keep trying to fix it. And even if it's not working after a year, dude, it's right. It's not working. Like you got to switch it up.
Well, and Jason, you and I know this. All entrepreneurs know this. We have these brilliant ideas, whether it's getting married, whether it's getting a puppy, whether it's having a business, whether it's to sit in this chair or to stand in the chair, whether it's turn the volume up or down. We all make these decisions, and we think we have these grandiosity is what erupts in our world. We're thinking it's going to be X. And we have this projection. We're like, well, of course, why wouldn't we do this? Because it encourages us forward. The only thing is, if we're attached to our outcome, we get really jammed. Now think about it, listeners. How often when you plan anything, you have this brainwave. You take a little nap, you have a coin between your finger, it drops just before it hits the plate below, you wake up, right? Like some of these inventors from years ago did.
Yep.
Right? You have these ideas and you go, like, this is going to be the greatest thing. You launch it. How many times out of, like, if you have a sum total of 1,000 of ideas that you've had in your life and you've launched perhaps 100, how many times out of that 100 has that idea actually developed into exactly how you saw it? The answer is never. So unless we build a muscle, inner musculature for handling losses well and onboarding them, it's like you're actually expanding who you are, because you're touching into yourself and connecting with yourself on another level. So it's bringing new life. It's expanding. It's not minimum. So a loss isn't to like make smaller. It's to actually let expand. Expand. You can feel that your shoulders can actually handle this. And when you can handle things, here's the beauty. Then you go into your new work week when you've properly unloaded all of the stings of a loss, and you think, this didn't work out properly. If you're constantly trying to avoid what is inevitable, which is 50% of the chances you're going to feel like you lost, if you can't already bring death to the idea before you do it, then chances are you're not going to fully action the idea. So when you start your week, who wants to only action ideas through confirmation bias? That's not a good
Yeah,
idea.
it's a
You know
horrible
what I mean?
idea.
Horrible idea. You want to see things really how they are, not through fantasy, reality.
I agree. So tell my listeners before you go how they should live fully alive and how they should create passion and purpose and where they can find you.
Well, in my humble opinion, and you say should, and I know where you're going with this, like we all have a choice in how we want to live, and we can make choice. We can live this way or we can live that way. Everybody gets to make a choice. For me, it just ended up being I was living a version of life. And one day I realized I was trying to live a larger life by excluding. And that in and of itself made me feel smaller and not like I was fully living. And so when I onboarded safely more emotions, of course, living fully alive. And so I think that's what you and I are talking about here. To live fully alive is the expansion. Thanks for bringing that. Now they can find me really simply on my website, www.jameshepner.com. There they'll find, if they want to work with me and have a discussion with me anyway, however that looks like, about results, coaching, one-on-one. Of course, this goes super deep. This is for those that are deeply hungry for the ultimate personal transformational experience. And honestly, because it's just you and I that work together here in that moment, we get to get beneath the surface of your individual experience of life and get to align with your strengths. From that place, we get to sculpt, craft, and design that personal success and fulfillment formula that's unique to you. It's not for everyone, it's unique to you. And of course, I also have, this is a gift for everyone. This is the virtual weekly wins and losses global call. So it's a short little call. Honestly, I'm a little biased towards this. And I mean, why would I not? I guess it's my thing, right? But I can't think of a better way than to hop on a call Friday at noon each week, come, and it's a really simple a call, but we get to remove those unhelpful stings of last week's losses so that we can launch out of the gate fresh, invigorated, ready to take bold and courageous action without hesitation and delay. And so I invite each one of you to come. And again, just go to that website that I gave you and on the website. Yes. And there you'll find weekly wins and losses. Scroll halfway down. There's little links. Say join this Friday's call. And hey, we'd love to have you. So
perfect. Thank you, James. So don't forget to check out jameshepner.com and join his weekly call. Again, this was a pleasure, dude. And we'll talk some more soon for sure.
All right. You take care.
See everybody in the next episode.